Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the HR and Payroll 2.0 podcast. I'm Pete Tiliakis, and as always, I'm joined by the legendary Julie Fernandez. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you so much, and I'm really excited to dive into today's episode. You know, I've been doing a lot of writing lately around workforce management.
Yeah.
And so this is just awesome timing, and it's a hot topic because there's so much going on out there. So,
same.
So why don't you do the honors and tell us who we'll be talking to today?
Yes, I met this person working on a case with UKG, again, about WFM and global payroll, which will come out very soon. And I was just really impressed with the story here of what they're doing in their organization and just this trend of CoEs coming about for WFM. And I was like, we got to have Jeronika on. So welcome, Jeronika Dancy, to the show. I love your name, by the way. I love your last name. It sounds like a DJ or something, you know? But welcome.
You love my last name. Fancy Dancy, I think.
Yeah.
Pink coined it, right? So I took it. I stole it. Even though I've had it longer than her song.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm excited to spend some time with both of you today.
Yeah, likewise.
Awesome.
I had a great time talking to you, and I was like, we got to do a podcast together. And I know you're a podcaster. You have a user group show, right?
I do. Actually, I have two podcasts. Most people don't realize this. I have one. I've been a widow for several years. So I have one where we talk about grief, but it's like funny. So a lot of people think it's really sad. It's about how you can make it through grief and it's happy. And then we talk tech on our UKG logging in UKG podcast with some other customers of UKG that we decided to just get together and really talk about tech and the UKG landscape.
Very cool. I love that. Everybody handles grief differently. You know, some folks it's laughter. So yeah, that's great.
Yes.
So Julie, you want to do the honors?
Yeah, sure. Like no stranger to all of this world, Jaronika. And if you're like everyone else, you maybe didn't intend to be here when you first started your career. So we have so much fun asking people, how did you get into HR and payroll? How did you find your way here? And what is it about it that makes you stay?
So it's funny you ask because I do this same type of question when I meet with leaders and I ask, if you weren't doing this job, what would you be doing?
Yeah.
So I went to school many, many moons ago. And I went for a music major. So I'm a vocalist. So I sing. And then I had a degree in political science. So I had a double major and I thought I was going to be a lawyer. Then I was like, I didn't want to be a starving, musician eating like peanut butter and jelly, bad apartments in New York. I just couldn't fathom it. I was a little bougie like that. I came from a good upbringing. I was like, I don't know that I can make it. I can still sing though. So what I ended up doing is I got a job working for the college, right? And I was recruiting kids. That's what you do. Mm-hmm. You find the best job you can get. And I found that I liked it. What I didn't like was the sales aspect of it, where you're kind of like forcing people to come to your college. I was at a small private, so it wasn't like a large state university where everybody wanted to get in. It was more like, please come to us, please.
Yeah.
And I was like, I like working with people. I like the opportunity to get to know all these folks and, help them on their journey, but I don't want to do this. So I got into recruiting for an organization many years ago. And I said, well, I kind of like HR. This is fun. So I started in recruiting, and believe it or not, I've snaked my way through different aspects. I've done compensation. I've done benefits. I've done even safety. I was a safety manager for years.
Oh my.
I've done it all. And then somewhere I got the tech bug, right? So as I was in that journey, I always got a chance to play with systems. I never thought I'd be a techie, but somewhere down the road, I was like, I love blending people with technology. I love the aspect of learning, and this is really cool. And then I said, hey, there's this thing called HRIS. It was very new. I was like, what is it? What do you guys do? Like, ooh, and they're like, I for HR. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. I want to do that. And I find that no one really wants to do that. Believe it or not, there's not a lot of
not
people.
On purpose.
Yeah.
I know, right? So, but I stayed, right? I got an opportunity to still grow in the HR space, still lead, be a change agent. I really, really love learning and development. That's very important to me. So organizational leadership was super important. And so I woke up and I said, I think this is it. This is my niche. Having technology, but also still being forward thinking for the person, right? The people are what make everything.
Yeah.
So I still got that aspect, and that's what HR brings. But then I got to use skills that I'm really good at, which is the technology component. And so every day I wake up, I get excited about new technology that's coming out, but really I get excited about the people that are behind the technology. So HR for me is just having like extended family members. Some I love, some I don't love so much. And some of them I really would like to love, but they don't want to love me back. So, it's just that journey that I continue to stay on and hope I'll be on it for, many more years to come.
Yeah, I love it. I've worked with some fantastic folks that were in the HRIS, HRIT side. And yeah, I mean, they understood obviously HR very well, and they made incredible contributions, right? Keeping the lights on for us and in a paddock when you need something, right? A report, whatever. So yeah,
Well,
good stuff.
what strikes me about your journey, Jeronika, is not only getting that tech book, but then swinging from the talent side of the house over to workforce management, which
Yeah.
is like the most hairiest, nitty gritty stuff. You like
Super
most people,
frontline.
if you don't want to do HR, you really don't want to do time and scheduling, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it just feels like
No,
it.
but the reality is I said people, and that's where your
Yeah.
people are. I'm in manufacturing. Most organizations have a front line of some sort,
Hmm.
but everyone has employees that work for them.
Right.
And 90% of organizations, there's some sort of time tracking you've got to do in some capacity.
Right.
And this wasn't something like I woke up and ran into. It was like a brick wall that just kept slapping my forehead because I was in the middle of like launching an HR tech team at Amsted where I work. And I kept saying, we have these systems that just don't work. And
Yeah.
this was one space. And then I moved from that that division that I was in to the parent company, and I took the project with me.
Yeah.
And now the project has become a role. It's become a journey. It's become expansion. It's become development for me,
Yeah.
which has been super exciting
Yeah.
because I thought about it like you did, Julie. I really was like, who wants to do this? And
Right.
I remember saying, I don't want to do this for 3
Yeah.
years. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be in implementation land. Please, like, how do I get
Purgatory.
out of it?
Help.
Like, it feels that way sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
I'm at ops and,
Yeah.
I'm still here and
Yeah.
I get to do other stuff all the time, but
It's
it's
the
different.
lifeblood, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's the lifeblood that connects the people to the pay. And so it's nitty gritty. It's, it's convoluted. It's totally messy. It's very local. And it's really important to them.
It's the heavy lift for a lot of
Yeah.
companies. I don't know if people
Yes.
realize it's a big, heavy lift too. And look, I always tell people, like, I don't know about you, Jeronika, but like, I feel like with every one of those really rough projects, this transformation projects, as painful and as
Mhm.
hard as they are, I got a degree of some kind out of it, right? I mastered some skill. Sometimes it was just adult daycare, running around getting people to do their jobs. But the reality of it is like, I really did learn a tremendous amount from that experience and from that pain.
Yeah.
That I use, in many ways. So it's a great experience for everyone. So tell me about Amsted. Like, what's life like there? What's sort of the culture, how you guys look at tech, what you're dealing with from a workforce management perspective, all that.
Well, I'll tell you, I started almost 7 years ago,
Mhm.
and I was in one of their subsidiaries, Amsted Rail. So the rail division stood up the tech team there and honestly helped to stand it up at every other Amsted business. And there's multiple under the umbrella. A VP that retired last year, she saw me. She was actually in another business and she said, "Hey, I want you to come work with me up here." And I'm going, "Why? Like, this seems unfun. There's 40 of you guys up there. What can I know what I can do because I've worked at parent companies before, but I'm like, what's your vision? Like, I like being in this subsidiary. I think we can go far." But then we had a vision, right? And they went with it. To be honest, I applaud them because I've worked for a lot of organizations that thought they were really automation and tech forward
Yeah.
and they thought, but they
Right.
weren't. They didn't invest in it. They didn't invest in the people.
Yep.
But Amsted's very different. They've
Mhm.
put a lot of energy and time into not just investing in the tech, but the people that are behind the tech, right?
Yeah.
And normally you do that in IT, but when you're in HR, what do we say? We don't spend money, right? We are supposed to be the cost savers. But the
Mhm.
reality is the systems are getting more complex. You need more people to run them. And if you want to standardize, you want to streamline, you want governance, you want all those things, you need a team of people that not only keep the lights on, but they're forward thinking about what's next based on the organizational goals. And so for Amsted, I applaud them. They do a
Yeah.
really good job of continuing to not only just support that mindset, but invest in the people and the technology. There's not a time, and this is not common,
Mhm.
where as an HR person, I go to the leaders and I say, we need this, and it's going to cost X amount of dollars,
Yeah.
that they just don't bat an eye. They're not thinking to themselves always, what's the ROI? When are we going to? It's more like, give me the business case. Is this right for our people? Is this going to empower our leaders? Is this really going to move us towards the goal that we're after? Is it? Okay, great. What do we need to do?
That's so
And
rare.
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so rare.
It's a great culture.
So
Yeah.
there are days that Amsted gets on my nerves,
Yeah.
and I have no problem saying it. But then I remember moments like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that comes from us being an ESOP company and being all, individual owners, or just the fact that it's their lifeblood,
Yeah.
right? They really care about this. And it's been a great organization to work for. It's been a great teams. I've got a lot of wonderful leaders and partners that have allowed me to be myself and really believe in the vision. I
Yeah.
always say it's a vision. It's not just they have to get along with the vision. When they got
Yeah.
along, we're rocking and rolling.
It
Yeah.
certainly helps that you have that culture. I mean, that's a massive win for success. But there's two things there that I think that I would point out that I'm trying to talk about in my research. And one is the attitude towards this being an investment and not a cost center, number one. And number two, you have that support for your vision, right? You've got a vision at all. We don't often see everyone start with a vision. We see people go off and do transformation, but they don't actually have a destination. They're just buying tech and thinking, well, that's going to be it. So you got a great foundation there. So tell us about Amsted though, because I know a little bit about it, but tell me about the diversity of the business. You guys are a manufacturer, but talk about the business itself.
100%. So Amsted is a global diversified manufacturer, spans across 17 countries, around 17,000 employees. We are in obviously North America, South America. We've got EMEA, we've got APAC, a little bit of everywhere, right? It's really cool. We're made up of 4 major companies that roll up into Amsted, Amsted being the parent company. Parent in the sense, I like to say parent, other people say investment or whatever.
Like
I
a
say
portfolio.
I say parent because with a parent, a true parent, you let your kids go do, but you also kind of keep them under the family. And that's kind of what I look at Amsted as. Years ago, everybody was super, super independent in terms of technology, how they manage their businesses. There's 4 presidents across that run each business. And we've got Amsted Rail, which obviously it makes sense. They make rail stuff. They make all the undercarriage of your rail car.
Okay.
So your wheels, your side frames, bolsters, bogies, moving all of your things across the country. You've got Consolidated Metco. The name doesn't align with what it does, but it's trucking. It's large overhaul trucking. So they make all the parts on trucks and things of that nature. And then you've got Amsted Automotive. Automotive is the key word there. They make parts for automotive vehicles, right? And very big in that space. And then we've got Baltimore Air Coil. They are the cool kids, we call them.
Yeah.
They're the cooling company. So they make all the large cooling towers. They're doing all the meta towers. So that's pretty common now, what you see. So very different independent operative businesses. Each one has their own, shared services of payroll, HR, IT, you name it. President run independently. But over the years, we don't really run as independent. I am lucky enough to have the one fully integrated team across all businesses.
Oh, that's
All
outstanding.
HRIS
That's
people
so
all work
fun.
together.
Purely for time.
Absolutely. But we actually support all HR technology. Anything under the HR landscape is our baby. And we are responsible for, if you want a people system, it ties to our people system.
Yeah.
We're going to do your APIs, your integrations. We're going to do apps. We're going to manage the day-to-day payroll, HR. We do bots, you name it.
Yeah.
We kind of do it. There's now 10 of us. Started with 1. People that did it. And now we're at 10. It's been less than 7 years. So it's super exciting to see that. Some of them have grown their teams in their respective business. So that's who Amsted is. We're a really innovative company in multiple countries, very big outside of the U.S., which is awesome for us because that's why, we get to help our partners no matter where they are.
Like U.S. headquartered, right? Even though
U.S. headquartered, yes. And it's kind of weird, kind of have a lot of mini headquarters. Isn't that weird when you have like mini headquarters? But yes, we are all U.S. headquartered. Sometimes I feel like we're headquartered in Mexico, though. But, that's okay. We love our Mexican counterparts.
So with that sort of autonomy that these businesses have, though, you're on a single solution for your core HR and it sounds like your time, I imagine, payroll and other things as well.
We are on a single solution for HR in U.S. and Canada. For time, we are getting there. For other one, it's independent depending on the country. My vision, let me sprinkle a little bit of my vision, is I know that it doesn't logically make sense to put everybody on maybe one global solution, unless you're, and I'm not plugging names here, but let's be real, unless you're looking at an Oracle, you're looking at an SAP or something of that nature, you probably aren't going to be able to fit all of the rules, all the compliance that you've got, and really also give that user experience that's important in country.
Right.
So what I think is the vision for Amsted, we're really thinking about that US and Canada will always kind of share the same systems. And that's why we're on this workforce management journey. But maybe it's regional. Mexico doesn't all have the same system today, but that's a journey that we're thinking through. Asia already, everybody in China use the exact same everything. And I love that.
That's great.
Because they're very unified. It's like, it doesn't matter where they work. They're all getting that value.
That's great.
That's cost and everything, right? Got to throw in, we got to save money.
Yeah.
And then the same kind of concept that they're thinking through, even in EMEA and areas like that, they have some of it, but it's not fully baked in, but it's definitely something that we're after.
Yeah. What is your frontline sort of experience like when it comes to workforce, like time and attendance and scheduling and all that? Is it pretty gnarly with what you have from a manufacturing standpoint?
I think it depends, right? We're getting to that gnarly state. I like the way you put that, where it's...
I imagine there's probably some unions here maybe and some other things.
In the US alone, we have 15 unions.
Have to be, right?
So, right. And one of the divisions has 11 alone. So there you go. One of them alone has 11.
And rail, if that's not
rail has 11. That's exactly what you just... You didn't even blink an eye. You're like, rail. She knows us. But we have lots of unions in there. But to your point, what it looks like is different. And that's why we're on this workforce management journey.
Okay.
We historically had disparate systems in workforce management. We didn't own it. That's a project I took with me to Amsted and said, what are we doing here? Right? We've got HR and payroll in the same system. Why do we have 7 or 8? We had 7 or 8 in the US and Canada alone, different time systems. And we still have somebody on paper.
Yeah.
How about that? How about them apples, right? We've been doing this for a long time. What are we doing with Excel spreadsheets?
Good grief.
And so, right, it was definitely one of those conversations where it's like, you got to tell the whole workforce management story, right? You've got to understand, you want a hire to retire story. How do we schedule people? How do we call for overtime? How do we allocate labor? How do we strategic plan? And then how does that tie into span of control or what managers are really great? And maybe we need to train based on how their production works. And so we're we're still on a journey. We've got a couple of our businesses, Amsted Rail and BAC specifically, that are live on workforce management with UKG. We're in the middle. I'm in the middle, along with our team, of 2 implementations, one for Mexico and one for another US facility, our Amsted Automotive facility. And then Consolidated Metco will kind of bring up the rear in US. But the goal is exactly what you said, Pete. It's really to be gnarly. And I love that you said that, be gnarly in that space where we're actually talking the same, the way you talk talent, right? And it's universal. Time can be universal. We can have individual specialized needs, but still use things like framework to really help us to get the best out of the technology. And also, I'm a big believer, and I don't think anybody's done this, so I'm going to plug this to all of your audience. Think about an operational excellence CoE, but not just in a business, across businesses. People tend to think, even in Amsted, we're unique. Oh my gosh, we make automotive parts and we make rail parts, but ops is ops. How do you share ideas? How do you share technology? How do you share thoughts, right? And so we're really having those conversations and crossing the water with different operation leaders. And not just executives. But
I am dying to know, and I don't know if I'm going to jump. I'm going to jump your order of the way you kind of wanted to flow this, Pete. But I'm dying to know, that operational excellence has for quite some time now had the shared services label, specifically different than center of excellence, right? And it bears connotations, but it is excellence. It's transactional excellence. It's, it's gnarly excellence, right?
Process,
is what it is. So how did you end up looking at this through like a CoE lens versus a shared services lens? And is there anything to that, or that's just taxonomy and that's the way you relate to it at Amsted?
Yeah.
Well, these are operation systems. We got to change our language. If we keep calling these HR and payroll systems every system, then we've kind of messed ourselves up. So we've got to change the way we view the technology, because at the end of the day, this system does the basic, which is track time to pay people correctly. put that to the side. That's table stakes. That's a requirement. Whether you do that in Excel, you're still using the green punch cards, that's a requirement. But what workforce management and what operations needs, they need to schedule people more accurately, more efficiently. They need to understand who's skilled, able, capable, available to work overtime or work a job at any given time. But I can sit there and say that we could all have these conversations. But what we need is them in the room at the table to talk about it and to really get down under the hood to understand once you've done your time study, once you've done all these other cool things, you need technology to support it. Otherwise, I'm running around with a spreadsheet or a steno pad or an Excel document. And I'm telling you, I know Johnny's been here 27 years and he's skilled on machine A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we kind of just shifted it from, it is kind of a hodgepodge of shared services and ops excellence. If you want to be excellent, you need the people and the processes in order to do that.
Absolutely.
So let's come together, right? And let's figure out what that looks like. Let's impart wisdom. Let's think differently. Let's try a few things. Let's get a little creative, but not disrupt productivity. And we can do that when we've really been more thoughtful and planful versus, as you said it earlier, we were just trying stuff. Like we just said, ooh, we don't have an end goal. We're just like, throw something at it and then you can hope it sticks.
Ready, aim, fire.
See what you can
Or
get.
ready, fire, aim, I guess is what it really
Yeah,
is.
definitely.
So you've not had to undo or unravel the notion of being shared services and having that label versus a center of expertise. You just grew it right natively as the excellence that it is, right?
I'd say a little bit of both because let me be fair, they didn't want me in their sandbox.
Yeah.
This isn't like I didn't walk in there and they opened the door and they were hugging me. I could probably call a COO on this call right now and he'd tell you our journey together was one of like contention. And it was, they're not doing this and they're messing it up. It's always shared services. But we had an honest conversation and that's what I always asked for. And we had to prove them wrong. We had to prove a lot of them wrong. We had to really, it was a bit of a tug of war. But then once you found the right change agents, once you built the right relationships, which is a lot of this is about.
Tell the right story.
I let them do the talking. I'm like, can you help me?
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go in a room X, but you're right. Some of it I've had to kind of, I always say I'm not shared services and I'm not Amsted. When I'm in a business and I'm in a project, I'm whoever I am at that time. So when I'm traveling and I'm at your facility, I don't even wear an Amsted shirt. I always ask for whatever business I'm going to their shirt.
That's great.
Because I want you to see me as a part of your team. Because the moment you do that, then we do better work together.
I love that. Yeah, I've told that same story about my experience at Disney with shared services. We were the devil and we were going through it with Enron and taking control away and we were shifting systems. It was more change than any human being should have to go through.
Oh, my goodness.
And we really had to earn it. You know, we had to have those hard conversations and show our worth and show our impact and talk data and all of that stuff. So
hey, there's psyops, right? There's a lot of psyops in HR. Let's not pretend.
There's a lot of diplomacy is what it is. There's a lot of sales. You're selling. You have to sell these things as a leader. And it helps if you have other leaders above you selling it to a champion. I would argue. It's very, very beneficial.
Yeah.
But
I agree with that.
How much, one of the things beyond the CoE, and I want to get into that a little bit, but tell me a little bit about like the importance of strategic workforce planning and strategic workforce management for you guys. Like, are you at a point where you feel like you're doing that? And that's obviously the goal, I take it.
I would say there are pockets of it if we're being completely transparent. Some people have really bought into it. So, and I'll even break it down to like smaller divisions within businesses. And some are still think it's foreign and it's not necessary and they're trying to grasp it. But they're looking at their counterparts and they're going, well, wait, how come they're having so much success? Why are they, more nimble and why are they having less challenges with not just hiring bodies, but actually keeping people? And so I would say that we're on a journey towards strategic workforce planning and those who want to actually do better, not just for themselves, but mainly, I'm going to go back to their people.
Yeah.
Right. And you work 223s and you're talking about these crazy schedules. Folks have lives.
Right.
They have kids.
That's what they care about.
If we're not thinking strategically about the number of bodies we need to make parts and what that costs us from a productivity standpoint, and we're just working, then we're in a hamster wheel. But the ones who've said, Jeronika, you got something there, or your team has got something, that's a good idea. And they started putting pen to paper. They brought in the right consultants from a productivity standpoint. They've worked with us. And actually, we've been more along the ride with them. We finally have the seat at the table where they're coming to us saying, we need to solve for problem X.
Yeah.
Right. And then we ask hard questions like, how does that show up for machine work? What are we doing here? And at first it was, why are you asking about that? That's not your, and it's like, in order for me to do my best job, I'm going to ask questions that may seem foreign to you. But I would say strategic, we get it. We know it's a necessary evil. Who's going to believe that we have a part to play in that? We're still kind of battling that concept that this group, this team, these systems should be a part of that journey with you and should support the work you're trying to do versus be counterproductive to the work you're
an
trying to do.
enabler.
Some are there, some aren't there.
You know what I love about the journey in your direction, Jeronika, is so many people start with the idea of strategic workforce planning through the finance lens, right? So this is macro and it's completely out of touch, let's say, with the people part of all of the stuff that they're doing. And so starting with it through the lens of operational excellence and understanding the nitty gritty and the stuff that really makes it crazy and bringing it up, right, to the strategy, the strategic conversations feels so much more meaningful to me. Otherwise they're just the high level strategy conversations that, really never get into it. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, just even asking you both a question. I would presume you spoke with a lot of people in your own perspectives that have you seen, because this is where my mind is that we start with finance and we start with the budget, but that's not real when it comes to what it takes to run a line or how much absenteeism we have. And that when we do start on the finance side versus the people side, from your perspective, has that really served a lot of organizations, or are they constantly trying to figure out how to fill the gaps?
Yeah.
Like that's exactly, you're right there circling exactly where my point is, which is, it's aspirational, it's a target, but it's maybe disconnected from reality. And then of course, as like everybody has to get more efficient every year. So then the target shrinks. It's like, well, how the hell do I make that happen on the other side? And so I think it's a necessary evil that you have to approach it from both lenses. But I don't think that there are a lot of folks who have the acumen and have really dug in the way you have through your operational excellence lens to be able to be informed enough to connect those dots or to be able to add that meaningful robustness, right, to this, what is a budgetary finance type of a process. So
it's a line item to someone else, right? Goes back to that selling it, I guess. So maybe that's a great question for you then, is what's the ROI that you need to put your finger on at the end of the day for this? Like, what have you guys looking for? Is it just productivity and efficiency, or are there more to it?
Productivity, it's efficiency.
Yeah.
And not just the people, but the managers is important for us. And then it's also adoption. Like, so from an employee standpoint, if I put in a tool and no one uses it, what do? We wasted money, right? So productivity is important because ops cares about productivity and efficiency. Our organization, when we look at that, I throw in, and this came from my role prior to the role I'm in now, as like employee experience architect. Very fancy title they made up. But basically, I care about employee experience regardless. And the goal behind that role was really to increase adoption, period. Yeah. And if no one's using it, as I just said, there's no point. So for us, you can look at financial dollars behind it, and that's so low on the totem pole with what we're doing. And I'm not tooting my own horn, but I'm a darn good negotiator. So I try to make our bang for our buck is really good. And I'm smart about how we spend. I don't just spend things. I will get it back. I don't want to, because I don't want the focus to be on how much we spent.
Yeah.
I want to focus on, how do I give back time to my managers so they can do more meaningful tasks? They can be less on the computer. How do we give employees we speak a lot about empowerment of employees.
Yeah.
How do we empower them with information right on time so that they can, not only show up to work, but also show up at home?
Yeah.
And so we really do a lot of that. So from my perspective, they need efficiency, they need productivity. They're talking about all those things. That's part of their KPIs. But ours is adoption. Ours is healthy employees, mentally healthy, physically healthy, happy employees. And I think that we in this space, because we are HR, but we have a part to play because the
Right.
technology empowers them with their own information so they can hold others accountable.
Yeah.
Jeronika, there's a whole universe of listeners who are screaming right now to know, like, what can I measure? What should I be? Like, what are
Yeah.
those low-hanging fruits? Help, what do I measure? I do.
Yeah.
I am a hippie. Listen, folks, I was not born in the 70s, but I'm a straight hippie.
All
So
right.
I have been in organizations where it was, how much should we spend? When are we going to get ROI back? When do we get ROI back? I am so blessed that our company has thought a little different. I said it, they invest in technology. And I've been so focused on, if I go to a site and we roll out a mobile app and I get over 75% of new employees, I get Flip Phone Guy to download the app, or he's willing to go to a kiosk and he's enabled, and he comes back or he reaches out to me and he talks about how him and his wife planned their vacation because they had the mobile app or they run the time clock. That for us means more to me than we saved $3,000 or $20,000. Because let me be real, systems are getting more expensive.
Yep.
And we're probably, because of the technology and the more expansiveness in the technology, we're going to spend more.
Right.
Period.
But the outcomes are more impactful.
The outcomes, right. It's more valuable because I get my paycheck information. I can do things at home. I show up. I'm happy. I catch a payroll error before payroll is processed.
Nice.
That's huge, right? Yeah. That to me. And then the manager goes, I spent 5 minutes a day on managing time.
That's great.
And not only did I manage the time in 5 to 10 minutes a day based on the size of their team, I got to know, where's my projected overtime? Where's my absenteeism criticality? So if we continue on this path, that's going to cost me X amount of dollars. Who's able to be scheduled? What's going on with my scheduling patterns? How can I look at that and reframe that? Are we compliant as it pertains to our union agreement? Because we've looked ahead. If I work this guy this week, we're not compliant. I've caused a grievance potentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that to me is more valuable because they're working smart. No one's tracking. I can call in Jim because I know Jim is skilled. The system called Jim for me. The system gave me a call and said, hey, Jim's coming in. And so I'm tracking different things.
Mm-hmm.
Finance makes me track money. Let me be fair.
Of course.
They do.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
They always do. I just got off a call and it was like, I was like, we got to track that.
Yeah.
But, I do that. And that's my job, is to help them understand where we are from a cost perspective. And I do that by staying under budget as much as I can.
Yeah.
I care about the other stuff.
Yeah. But you don't have that tied to your neck, right? Like a weight, like, it's got to be cheaper. It's got to be, I think that idea of, look, now when you're buying the SaaS or you're buying services, you're really stepping into an innovation engine that you're not going to buy and build yourself.
Correct.
It's not going to be necessarily cheaper than what it was in the past. And I think cheaper is not always better, especially in this world. So I love this.
I totally hear like the salesman in you, right? Needs to tell the stories because that's what people are going to listen to. And yet you still got to go do the grunt work of figuring out some numbers for the book, for the bookies that are going to track you down.
Yeah.
Feeling like they're gangsters coming after me, Julie.
I know.
So Jeronika, what's kind of the staffing in this CoE? What kind of skills are you looking for? Are you putting, data scientists? We've seen a bit of that in some for payroll and some other areas in workforce management. Are you looking at that as well?
So I'm a snob, and I think my HRIS people are the smartest people on the planet. When we hired them, they all brought different things to the table. Or some were in the business and we saw skill sets. So we don't have an intention to grow outside of the people that are here on our team, but we do have an intention to bring in business subject matter experts. So if you're respected to a plant, if you're an COOs or even on our CoE, like we have it's a very important operational managers, supervisors, team leaders. We even have some employees that are going to be like, technical production employees, right? Because it matters to get the full lens. But the people that are doing the work are HRIS people. We have folks that are capable. They're not technically titled data scientists, but I'm going to be honest with you, they'll give your folks a run for their money.
Yeah.
We get in trouble internally because we can build our own apps. We can do integrations. We do our own APIs. We analyze all the data and we do it at a very high executive level. We all report out to the board respectively for our individual businesses, and me kind of at the Amsted level. So they're good.
Yeah.
They're great at what they do. We don't need that. What we need to do is get the rest of the business in line. So
Yeah.
they understand that if you're going to change a shift, what does that look like?
Yeah.
If you're deciding to roll out a new process for operational, for whatever
What's the
reason,
impact? Yeah.
who's at the table to
Yeah.
have the conversation before you say we need and it's going to happen? A, can the system support it? B, what's the timeline to complete that? C, like who all needs to be involved and what's the downstream impact? Because there could be impact for financial reporting and other
Payroll.
things that even aren't in
Yeah.
I didn't even go to payroll. Pete. That was being nice. But there absolutely could be that, right? Even compliance, like we have to remind them about the law says you can't do that, like, or
Yeah.
this has to be on a check. Like, so that's what the goal of it is to really educate them because we've historically operated independently,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
I want to do this, you make it happen. We decided we're going to do this, you make it happen.
Yeah. I love that the tech is bringing you together, though.
Yeah. How are you able to, because you have so many, like many manufacturing organizations, you have unions. Unions are a big presence. So have you cracked the nut of being able to get in front of some of what happens in negotiations? Because
I've been to this.
I know we've all lived it, and it's terrifying, right? Because some of that, who should be at the table,
Yeah.
and how is it even legal? Can a system do it? Just has not gotten out ahead of the union,
Yeah.
negotiations and labor.
They're a partner, in my opinion.
You
Yeah.
took the words you have to have. So our labor relations director in the division that has the largest amount of unions, I have a pretty good relationship with him. But guess what? I sit at one of the facilities. I don't sit at the parent company. I know every union president at that, and I ain't gonna say where they at, but they give me money. But I know every one of the presidents.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I know
Yep.
every one of the presidents.
Yeah.
I know the reps of the respective unions. And they sometimes email me and forget that I don't work for them anymore. And I'm like, hey, why are you doing that? We can't do that. So I came in pretty guns a-blazing into the organization.
Yeah.
I might not have, I would say I didn't get any friends early, but then they got there. Right. And I do the same thing. So I've had to fly out because the union president has said this is wrong. And so I go the first thing, bring him in the room. We're having a meeting directly. We're not going to go through 7 people because the union president believes something that may or may not be true. But the other thing is we got to ask what they want. Now we know they want everything. Some union folks want everything. But are we having real conversation with meet me in the middle? But I believe, and you said it, it's relationships.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
me is
They don't. What they don't want is they don't want their members coming to them on a Monday morning with some problem that they were blindsided by.
Yeah.
And I think when you build that relationship, part of that is calling them and saying, "Hey, we screwed something up, or we've had some trouble. Let's work through this together to communicate and deal with it." When you treat them as not a partner, that's when things get bad. And so, I have chill bumps right now because I spent a lot of time in Hollywood making friends with a lot of these unions so that they called me first and not the CEO of the company. When there was a paycheck error that was a penny or whatever it was, it was important, and I made it a priority to them just the same way I would any other business unit. But they're representatives for them. And I think that's brilliant that you're making that collaborative, engagement. Along that lines, how much of your job is change management?
I would say it's a funny conversation because they've talked about moving me into a strictly change management role for many years.
Yeah.
But then they're like, but who's going to do all this other stuff? I'm like, I don't know. But I can't do it all. So a lot of my job. So I travel a lot, and 90% of the travels that I do, I don't have to do it. It's the change management portion of why I do it. I'm going because I've got to set the stage. I got to build the relationships. We got to get ready for what's coming. I got to have those conversations. So while I implement a lot, help lead teams, sometimes tinker anymore. I'm trying to get out of that world. Hello, I just don't want to do it anymore. I can do it. I'm spending more time preparing, having conversations, thinking forward. And I really wish that there were 2 of me because I feel like I need to give more attention to it. But I'm trying to train my people to be junior change agents, right? So that within their span of control, before it gets to me or your leaders, you need to be planning for change and be communicative and thinking about what that would look like. But it's a journey. I've been doing this for many, many years. Most of my team have not. So I've just had to get comfortable with being a one-woman show in some cases, or 2 or 3. And so And I don't think I would have it any other way. I
Yeah.
really wish there were two of me sometimes, but I would get bored. I think if I was just like, so check
Well,
box.
now you can be cloned. You can AI clone yourself, and I would imagine,
Woo!
get another hand.
Make me skinnier. Is that a thing? Like, make me skinnier. I don't know. If you're gonna clone me, give me all
Younger, yeah, whatever it
Yeah, yeah,
takes,
yeah.
whatever you
younger,
want.
everything.
I got a
Yeah.
big wish list there, but
I'll take younger. Yeah, yeah. So, Jeronika, one of the things I want to talk about, we kind of started to touch on this. I want to talk about governance. How have you looked at that in this, and what is your point of view on what you should be thinking when you're building these out?
Yeah. So it was tricky at first because as you build a system such as workforce management, and it's a global system, right?
Mhm.
We built it with a global framework in mind. We knew others would come, but everybody can't be on the governance team. I
Yeah.
used to call it a red team back in the day. Everybody can't be on that. I know you know that term. Everybody
The
calls
Tiger
it.
team.
It's like went through so many different versions, but
Yep.
everybody can't be on it. So one of the things we really thought about with governance is who was necessary. So, right, who is necessary on a governance? So they can be on the CoE, but maybe not make it to the governance or not the finalization. So who needs to be on it? Why are they on it? Really identifying the why between who is on it. So, and I'll give you an example. So our team is made up of myself, my leader who kind of oversees all of strategy for total rewards and HRIS. And then to be honest, I love him. He's a figurehead though. He's really a figurehead because you got to have some executive that can go
Yeah.
and fight the battle when you need them to fight the battle and you're doing the work. And then we have uh, one of our employees who's within Amsted Rail, but he is the smartest in this space. He knows this system like the back of his hand. Everybody relies on him. I hired him a couple years ago. It's no toot to my own horn. He brought his own skills, but we would be remiss if we didn't, like UKG tries to steal him all the time. I can
Yeah.
tell. That's how good he is. So you need somebody
Yeah.
that's beyond a subject matter expert. He doesn't care what business you're in. He knows his stuff. But then we have some other people that have a holistic view of the whole org. So when we think governance, it's really keeping in mind, how does that impact the whole org? How can we let your system have that or your business have that autonomy without disrupting the whole org? And where does it make sense
Mhm.
to split and be apart? We do not want to go back to where we were before, where it's disparate systems in a system. We still want there to be some standardization, and we only need to be unique where it makes sense.
Right.
Like, and I'm going to use an example because this grinds my gears. When people are like, "Well, we want it to be called this."
Yep.
Why does that matter? Like, what matters is we're following a naming convention. It's easy for when you retire or leave the organization for you to document and somebody else to pick up. But if we get so specific on things like names, because in our old system, or we really like it this way instead of that way, we've lost the importance of what it's about, which is managing the work. So that's what our governance team does with the CoE is really you surface it all up to us. Great. But we will tell you, here are the guardrails. Here's what you have autonomy to make decisions on. Here's where you've got to come to us. And then we have to talk about it and discuss how does that impact what happens here? What do we need to do? And we also fight the fight to be at the table. Like
Yeah.
we're the team that goes and says, oh, why weren't we in that call? You expect that to be here in a month or 3 weeks? You can't make it. And here's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah. You're setting real expectations.
100%.
Yeah. Can't just say yes to everything. So
We
look,
try.
We try.
Jeronika, I want to keep asking you so many questions. I think I say that a lot, but I really do. This is fascinating. I thank you so much for sharing all this. What have you learned that you would say? And I know you're not completely done here. You've got more work to do. You made tremendous progress. What would you say you've learned that you might do differently, or just any advice to folks that are kind of starting off on this? What would you sort of recommend to them?
So I'm a go, go, go. They always tell me that to pull me back. You don't have to drag me. I'm probably 30 steps ahead because it's just the way I am. One of the things I would do differently, especially around COEs, because we don't really have them for other areas. We have best practice teams. But we're and I'm the one that's driving it. I would have probably built a business case and went to all of my executives early on and got them to buy in because it took me more time to get them to buy in, and not so much on the COE aspect, but more so of how we're going to keep it going and manage it and why on it, right? Why I asked a COO to be a part of it, why this operational manager who maybe hasn't implemented the system yet is going to be pinged to be on this, and the amount of time we're taking away from their work, why it matters. So that's probably what I would have done, is educate this business particularly, because there's the old way that people probably did COEs or best practice groups. And then there's the way that I think that's going to help us be more efficient. And I'm not going to lie, I probably put the cart before the horse, because I just knew it was important and we're running up against some roadblocks. And
yeah. Well, you know what? That sounds like the most sensible what would I do in hindsight thing that I've ever heard, Jeronika.
Yeah.
But I also think some people who start with that never get any traction. And it just floats out around there, and so the fact that you actually leapt in and had a bunch of stuff going on, you probably wouldn't have had, your first draft probably wouldn't look anything like it does today, now that you're a lot wiser and a lot further down the road, right?
Yes.
It's like a damned if you do and damned if you don't. You want to get there, but is
That's
it
awesome.
real? It's only real when it gets legs, right?
That's right. Exactly.
So, Jeronika, look, thank you so much for sharing all of this. I'd love to have you come back at some point and give us an update on where you landed and how all this came out. It sounds like it's going really well, and seriously, congrats to you. You've done amazing work, and you've been blessed with a great culture and organization to support that, and met it with the hard work and the vision. And I applaud you, because I think you're probably a unicorn amongst. There's not a lot of you out there in terms of this maturity, in my opinion.
Let's be honest. If the culture in Amsted weren't what it is, somebody that could be a unicorn can just get horribly frustrated, burn out, and give up the ghost, right?
Yeah,
so it was like a match made in heaven.
You're a business leader, right? You're not just, I think we've got to get that in our heads about HR, payroll, workforce management. They are business leaders who are leading very critical business processes and very critical outcomes that we cannot continue to look at as a cost center. We've got to look as an investment center. So I love that you've got that lens already in your leadership.
Absolutely.
So congratulations. So look, where do you best want everyone to try and reach out to you? I'm going to put your links in here. I'll have the link to the ebook that we wrote on globally integrated payroll and time that tells your story. But where else would you like us to connect with you at?
I'm a LinkedIn junkie. It's like my Facebook/Instagram for everybody. Follow me on LinkedIn. Who knows? You might catch something good. I got to do a couple more posts. I'm always thinking about what the people want to know. Or usually it's just me ranting about what I feel about something at this point in time. It's like, I told you, it's like my Instagram, but I'm on LinkedIn. I love to connect with users. I love to connect and talk with folks. Do not blame it on my head, not my heart, if I don't get back to you right away. But I will get back to you, I promise. But absolutely, follow me on LinkedIn. It's the best place to find me, and you'll get the most quickest response in that spot.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. And again, congratulations. You really have done an amazing job, and I'm happy for you and Amsted. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for everyone listening as always. And we will be back very, very soon with more content.